I first cut a piece of scrap lumber, relatively close in thickness, to the exact width of the existing zero clearance plate. That plate then became my template. I lined it up on the piece of lumber and traced around both edges, so when I got it over to the bandsaw, there was no mistake on where to cut. Once I got it over to my Laguna Tools 1412 bandsaw, I set the blade guide just slightly higher than the piece of lumber. I cut all the scrap to the outside of the line, so when I got it over to my router table, it would be no match for the pattern bit. Next, I set up a pattern bit on my router table and adjusted it to the appropriate height. I made sure to lock the lift in place to prevent the bit from traveling up into the template. Painter's tape worked perfect for keeping the template from shifting side to side on the piece of scrap. It was finally time to cut the template out on the router table. Going at a slow pace, I traced around the template with the router bit. This ensured a nice clean cut. Off camera, I took the tape off the template and then re-secured it so I could cut the other side to the exact shape. Then it was back to the pattern bit. Using a Forstner bit, it was now time to make a finger hole. That way I could remove the plate from the table saw once it was secured. I matched it up to the original and came up with a 7/8 inch hole. Once on the drill press, I drilled all the way down just enough to pierce the other side, but not go through. And I do this so I can come back, line up the hole, and drill out a nice hole with no tear out. In order for this new plate to sit flush on the table, I had to bypass the plate lock. So I traced out the inside of the original plate and drilled it out with a 1-inch hole. Repeating the same step as before, I pushed the bit in just enough to pierce out the other side. Then I flipped the board over and used that hole to line up the Forstner bit. That way I have no tear out and it leaves a nice precise hole. Using a medium grit sanding sponge, I went ahead and cleaned up all of the edges of the plate. On my Laguna Tools Fusion table saw, I raised the blade as high as I could. This way I could get a precise 90-degree angle with my Woodpecker's 1281 precision aluminum square. The new zero clearance plate was an exact fit, so I slid the fence over, that way when I started to raise the blade, it wouldn't lift off of the table. To keep the opposite side from lifting, I used a miter gauge and a piece of scrap lumber, then raised the blade slowly through the plate. Using a Minwax wood finish, I decided to put a stain and sealer on it. That way it would bring out the beauty in the grain, but also serve a purpose. Because I bypassed the plate lock, I decided to use rare earth magnets to keep the plate secured to the table saw. So I placed one at each point where the plate would rest. I would now need to mark on the back of the plate where to countersink the holes for each magnet. So I decided to use a large Sharpie. This one had a lot of ink left in it, so I drew on the back of each rare earth magnet. That way I could lay the plate on top and know exactly where to drill the holes when I looked at the other side. Perfect. Back of the drill press, I used a 3/8 inch Forstner bit to countersink each hole for each rare earth magnet. The rare earth magnets I used are unique in the fact that they have a screw hole in each one. This enables me to set the screw height to whatever it needs to be to make the plate flush with the top of the table saw. Off camera, I brushed on a little paste finishing wax just to complete it. It finally went into its new home, and I gotta tell you, it's looking pretty good. Hey, thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe to see more videos just like this.